Hello and welcome, everyone. We're really excited to have you all here today for our weekly deep dive series with OCI Product Management. For those of you who may be new to our events, we're hosted on Cloud Customer Connect, our Oracle community forums for end users. You'll see links throughout the presentation today in the chat that lead you to the Cloud Customer Connect forums, and we invite you to create a free account, join in discussions, and look for upcoming events of all kinds of topics. I'm Mary Hess, Program Manager with OCI Go-to-Market team. And today I'm joined by Jim Smith, Senior Product Manager with OCI. And today he'll be showing you our new OCI Vulnerability Scanning Service. Before I hand things over to Jim, I'd like to run one quick poll for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that right now. These weekly deep dives are designed with you, our users, in mind, so please take a moment to share your thoughts on what topics interest you the most. Speaking of which, we actually have an event next week as well. Next Thursday, August 5th, same time, we're hosting VG Krishnamurthy and Jason Ding for a deep dive series or event, sorry, and demo of our just released OCI anomaly detection service, which will help you easily incorporate scalable AI-based remote access or asset monitoring and diagnostic features into your workflow. I'll drop a link to the registration page in the chat, and I hope you guys can join us for that event. So let me drop that real fast for y'all. Another link that I'm going to drop in the chat is to our survey that we're running with our OCI customers. Your opinions are very important to us, and we greatly appreciate if you take 1 to 2 minutes of your time to provide us with your feedback about your experience. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that as well. All right, and that's it for me. A quick reminder for today's session, we encourage you to use the Q&A window at the bottom of your screen for any questions during the presentation. We'll also be recording today's presentation, so if your colleagues were unable to make it, we'll be posting the replay, and I'll drop the links in the chat for that as well. And it's on. Jim, you can take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jim Smith. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Vulnerability Scanning Service. We GA'd end of March. And there we go. So today we'll talk about what is the Vulnerability Scanning Service, how do you set it up, how do you go look at findings. I'll even show you how it feeds data into Cloudguard, and go a little bit over the roadmap of our future enhancements we're planning. So the goal at OCI Security is to give you products that are easy to set up, and free, obviously, is another key. And once you set it up, it's always there and always going to work for you. Vulnerability scanning for the host scanning part, we'll look at your things like in this diagram, your web servers. We're not going to scan the load balancer and database servers that are running, that are hosted by OCI. We have an internal team that will do that. But any VM or bare metal that you spin up for yourself, you can turn on our product and we'll scan those hosts for you, and we'll give you back information about vulnerabilities with packages that are installed on that OS. We'll also tell you about ports that we know are open on that host. We'll also do an Nmap scan to show what ports are available to the external world. And then we have started doing some CSI benchmarking. Today, we only take care of authentication and access benchmarks. Over the next year, we'll have all the CSI benchmarks covered by each OS. Another question people always ask is what OSs are covered. We cover the compute OCI operating systems that are supported today. That's Oracle Linux, of course, CentOS, Ubuntu, and Windows Server. Each of those 4 OSs have a thing called Oracle Cloud Agent that runs on there. That allows other plugins to run, things like Bastion Service, OS Management Service, and of course, our plugin. Our plugin then will run and gather package information and run some commands to see that you are doing things to meet benchmarks. Once all that data is collected, we'll do matching in our backend servers. And then that data is then flowed out to the event service, the logging service, and of course, Oracle Cloudguard. That is your global reporting area. I look at it as there's two main user groups, at least. You've got your operational people monitoring things at Cloudguard level across all your regions. They're going to see that there's vulnerabilities or ports open that they don't like, and they can contact the correct people to go make changes. But I see people using vulnerability scanning service, or people closer to development, dev managers, developers themselves. They're going to go want to look and see what vulnerabilities exist on their current systems that they're coding, or maybe they need to do an update. They've been told that there's some vulnerabilities on the hosts that are running in production. They can make those changes in the dev and QA environments, and then know that they've cleaned things up before pushing that change to production. Over time, we look to add some responders to help do the patching. Early on, over the next few months, I'm going to make sure that we have a link from our VSS UI to take you to OSMS, which will help you patch packages on your current host. So setting it up is very simple. You need to do three main things, and that is to give policies where you give permissions to our service. Our service needs to have access to some networking pieces, and we also need to have access to ping your VMs or bare metal instances, basically talking to the Oracle Cloud Agent saying we need our plugin woken up, and then the plugin will respond and give us back results. The next thing you do as a user is you need to create a scan recipe to set up what type of some type of configuration. How much do you want to scan? And then finally a target, and you can target the root compartment and all subcompartments, and you do that level. From that point on, every VM or bare metal instance brought up will be scanned automatically. You don't have to remember to install anything. You don't have to remember to come back in here and configure anything ever again. Once you've done that, typically within 15 to 20 minutes, you'll start to see results on your current host. After that, the default is daily, every 24 hours, we'll do a scan for you, and you can come back in here and see the latest results. You do have options to say, I only want to scan weekly, and we'll only do it once a week. You can pick what day that runs even. So we slice things based on looking at it via host, via ports that are open per host, and you can also look at which vulnerabilities, and you could see how many hosts are impacted. So then you know if a certain vulnerability is cutting across every host. As I mentioned before, these findings will flow to Cloudguard. And today in Cloudguard, you can set it up to become problems for certain ports that are open or certain vulnerability severities. So for example, you only want high and critical vulnerabilities against a host to become a problem in Cloudguard. And then again, which ports should never be open, you can say those are disallowed. That can become a problem. What's nice about this is we will only flag one host with an open ports problem and one vulnerability problem, even if you have multiple ports open or multiple vulnerabilities against that host. This is so we don't inundate Cloudguard with just vulnerability problems. We also today can scan container images, and we do that through the OCI RUI today. But I'll tell you right now, the devs are working on creating the user interface inside VSS. And so that should be rolling out to production in the next few months. And you'll be able to pick and choose what OCIR repos you want scanned. But as of today, if you go into OCIR, you go down to your repo, right here with the action, you can add scanner. And then you can see the results here in the OCIR UI. The goal is the next few months to be able to do it in our UI. And then future roadmap would be to add the ability to scan Quay and Artifactory, external container image registries. And this is critical because I know a lot of customers would like to scan from there before those images actually get copied into OCI. So how to use this? So if you do happen to look at our PDF, I've got slides here showing you step by step. But to make this a little more interesting, I'm going to go live for you. And oops, let me stop and show works better. All right. So, oh, poll. Yes, thank you. There's a poll. If you could answer that while I get things set up. I'll go to scan recipe first. Appreciate everybody answering. So as I mentioned, you do permissions. You can read up about that in our help documentation. Oh, this is nice. It keeps popping back up on me. All right. So I won't go into the permissions. The details of how you want to give permissions are all detailed in the online help text. As I mentioned, you've got to give the service some access, and you do need to give your administrators access to be able to create scan recipes and targets and allow people to look at the results. So once you have an administrator like myself, I can come in here and I can create a new scan recipe. I can create it in the compartment that I'm currently in. I can decide to look at the top 100 most common ports or the top 1,000 most common ports. Or I can decide I don't want the Nmap scanning to happen. This is basically what Nmap scanning will do for you. We limit it to the top 100 and 1,000 ports because we don't pinging every port across every one of your VMs. Some people could decide that they don't want that, and that's why none is an option there. Future enhancement would be allow you to edit the port. Obviously, this is allowing our plugin and then enabling CSI benchmarks. Today, we've done a simple, strict, medium, and lightweight to determine if we're going to make it a high or critical risk if you have a lot of failures on your benchmarks. In the future, we'll allow you to adjust exactly this percent. And as I mentioned before, it's a free service, so why not let it do a daily scan? But if for some reason you don't like that, you can choose a day to run it. Once you create that recipe, you go over and create a target. Obviously, I'm not having to do this since I've already set this up, but just to show you the options here. So I can create a scan target. I'll create it here in this compartment like I did here. And this is where not only the target information is stored, but also all the results for all my scans will be in this compartment. And then I'll choose a recipe that I've already created. And then your target compartment, you can choose which compartment you want to go scan. Now, if I choose for this example, sandbox, it will scan sandbox plus any sub compartments under that, as mentioned here. Now, if for some reason I'm doing a special recipe, I'm skipping ports for a certain compartment, etc., I can select specific compute instances. And so I can have a very specialized recipe and then target only certain OSs or certain instances in this case. All right, we'll skip that. Obviously, I've got a standard recipe and target going. And so I have host scans here. Now it happens to be this test bed compartment. I've spun up an instance of pretty much every OS. I'm running the latest Windows Server here. I don't know why it says Windows 10, but that is Windows Server. I am running OL 6, 7, 9, 8, Oracle Linux, of course. Now, recently I've updated these servers, so the counts are pretty low, except for this one's an older Ubuntu. So there's some older packages on there that we're matching against. They may not have exactly that many issues for real. It's the case of some false positives based on the package names or the packages being very outdated, etc. But we'll go look at Oracle 8. And this is where I mentioned if I'm a dev or a dev manager, I'm going to want to go look at specific boxes that I'm working on with my latest code, make sure that I've cleaned things up. I can see I have 8 highs, 3 mediums. In the future, we'll have a graph. This will be half the size, and there'll be a graph to the side showing trending data. So you can see that the highs, criticals, mediums are going up or down. Here you can see how many benchmarks I've passed. When's the last time I did my scan? I can also jump to the compute host here, go to compute, look at that. We will, as I mentioned here, we'll have a link to OSMS to help you go do a patch right away. I can look at what open ports I have. So when the IP address is 10. whatever like this is basically information that we're finding from the host itself, from our plugin. With the IP address, this is results that are coming back from an Nmap scan. It happens that I'm not blocking anything, but if I had networking things set up, rules and so on, maybe I can't get to, but maybe port 22, and these other ones you wouldn't be able to get to. Now I can look at vulnerabilities. I can see I have some highs, mediums, some nones. Today, the title is only the CVE ID number again repeated, which I'm not excited about, but we will be upgrading that. Now, when I clicked on that specific CVE, I get some more information about this specific CVE. You can also see that this same CVE is on these 2 versions of Oracle Linux, as well as this version of Ubuntu. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not happy about no title. I'll click on this. That link will take me to the NVD database. It will tell me more information about this specific CVE. We will be bringing in, where's the nice text? For example, this text here will be showing up on our UI soon. So you have some description. You don't always have to jump to NVD to go look at it. But that link will be there. You can see when it was found and the last time information about this specific CVE was updated. All right, let me go back. So if I was looking at, I've been writing software for a specific Oracle 8 instance. I can go in here. I could launch into compute. I'll do that really quick for you. Did I click on the wrong one? I clicked on the wrong one. But anyways, I would click into a specific compute box. I could go down here to OS management. And from OS management, I could click and do my patching of either security vulnerability, packages that have security vulnerabilities against them, or I could just do an update of all packages. If I was a dev doing that, then I would want to then retest my code to make sure that those package updates didn't break anything. Let me go back to security. Let's go into Cloudguard. Let's actually click. There we go. Okay, so I'm in Cloudguard, and I can see that I have various problems. But you can see from VSS, I'm getting information about scan hosts have open ports. I can see where it's happening in the world. And a lot of things about open port. There we go. And then we have the vulnerabilities as well. So I can drill down and look at that specific host. Click, there we go. My fingers are not working great. There we go. So my risk level is critical because I have it configured that way. I can see how many highs I have, and I have 11, and I can see each CVE ID listed out. I can then jump back to the specific host and go look at the specific details in VSS again. And then I can, let's say I've updated it, I can dismiss or mark this as resolved because I've gone and dealt with these vulnerabilities. Let me show you quickly why I'm here. My detector recipes. There we go. We have scan hosts with vulnerabilities, and we have open ports. And let me move that out of the way. There we go, sorry. All right, vulnerabilities. So right now, I have it set up that any higher critical CVE will become a problem here in Cloudguard. I also have a list of certain ports that if these are open, and I have quite a few because I want to trigger this in Cloudguard for demo purposes. Now, if I want, I can go in here and of course, I can edit Cloudguard. I could decide that certain ports are fine, or I can add a new port in here. Let's go back to here. I can decide that high critical, and I could say medium will trigger, right? And now that will change what we're looking for. All right, so that's Cloudguard. Go back to scan. So coming soon, we'll combine these reporting into one reporting view. We'll have tabs across to choose between host scanning, port scanning, and as I mentioned, container image scanning. I'll give you one quick look at that. So today, as I mentioned, if I go into OCIR, I can click on one of these. We'll take a second to figure out if it needs to add a scanner or remove it. So I'm already scanning. So if I wanted to stop scanning, I could click here and say remove scanner. Let's go look at one of these guys. Scan results, there we go. So if I click on a specific version, if you have a lot of versions stored in OCIR, we scan the 4 latest versions for you. We assume things older than the last 4 are probably really old, and you care more about the most recent images. Every time you push a new image into the container registry, we'll do another scan for you. I can then details here. And as you can see, I get the issue numbers here. I can dive off to NVD, but I've got a nice description already here. So now it saves me from having to click on each one of these. Okay, and that's the live demo part. Let me go back to our slideshow here. All right. And another poll. So I talked about giving permissions, creating a scan recipe, create a target. You can go configure Cloudguard detector recipes so that the problems come out the right level. I showed you how to view the host results, the open ports, and of course vulnerabilities, and we saw the problems in Cloudguard. I'm going to skim over these slides very quickly since I already took you to that. This was the policy piece. Wait again. All right. As I mentioned, you have to give our service permission to manage instances, read compartments, look at the VNex, etc. This allows our service to run and do the scanning. And then, of course, you need your admins to be able to look at your repos in OCIR, as well as manage your instances. And again, we're not managing your instance. Really, all we're doing is able to call the OCA, the cloud agent, and that allows us to do a lot of things. All right, I'm going to click through this pretty quickly. It's in the PDF, so if you want to reference that. We help remind you if you have nothing to look at, maybe you're in the wrong compartment or you haven't set it up, and we'll help get you to set things up by creating a recipe and a target. That's Cloudguard again. So coming soon, or not soon enough when you're product manager, we'll be enhancing the UI and improving it over time, iterate. So one thing we'd like to be able to do is, as I mentioned, we'll have vulnerability reports here. And then you have tabs to choose between the different type of reports, etc. So we're going to have an overview page similar to what Cloudguard has. Well, we're going to do a scoring. We'll do how your vulnerabilities are doing and a trend across all your hosts. One thing is when we first launched, we weren't using oval data on all the OSs. We've improved that. We are using oval data now, so the false positives have gone down quite a bit. As I mentioned, the container image scanning is only OCIR. We'll be adding a screen here where you can pick which repositories in VSS that you can pick from, and we'll start scanning those for you. And as I mentioned, I want to be able to do Docker V2 registry next year some point. And then you'll be able to see the results in VSS. So to summarize, it's easy and simple to turn on. You create a recipe and a target, and then you don't have to remember to do any other configuration steps from that point on. People spin up VMs. No one has to remember to add some kind of install to a script of some agent. It's automatically done for you. So then every morning, every day, you come into vulnerability scanning or Cloudguard and see how your hosts are doing. Now, I know I have a mixed group of some internal folks and some external folks. This is for internal Oracle people. We have a Oracle tube and we have internal Slack. So you can reach me at that, or you can reach me via email. We have some internal documentation. For external folks, the best place to start is right there. It's an overview of how to use the service. And then that will get you to plenty of pages of documentation and so on. And again, email me if you have questions or ideas that you'd love to see in the future. Now, as I mentioned, we'll have containers as well as the host scanning fully going, right? And we'll keep enhancing it by adding CSI benchmarks, etc. And just keep improving it and making it better. Long term, we'd love to see some things like potentially adding source code scanning, maybe offering a dynamic application security testing type tool. We're also looking at integrating it maybe with our internal scanning tools and enhance things that way. And then the other big thing would be the responders in Cloudguard, having a way so that people can kick off blocking ports or patching things on their VMs. We need to be careful with that because I don't want to see people patching things in production across all the production servers and then wonder why some service went down because you added some new package that hadn't been tested yet. This is external. So this is a full walkthrough of how to set up scanning and then viewing the results. So we broke that into 4 different steps. So that's available to everybody. I'll give you a chance to screenshot that if you want. Otherwise, as I mentioned, it's available in the PDF. So target recipe, target host. I think I went over that pretty well. So I'm about to do Q&A. Do we have another poll to do? We can go ahead and do another one if you want. I will look at my Q&As. Oh, Q&A is over there. All right. All right, so do you have multiple tenancies? Yes. So, okay, so this is a good question. So if you're a customer, you have multiple tenancies in the same region or spread across lots of different regions. VSS is a regional service, so you will have to configure it in each tenancy in each region. But as I mentioned, if you do a recipe standard scanning and you create one target at the root level, you're done at that region, that tenancy. So you do those few steps, those 3 steps in each tenancy per region, and you're good to go from that point on. Of course, then in Cloudguard, you could see the information for a specific tenancy. I think in the future down the road, I don't know when, they're looking at doing some kind of Cloudguard mechanism to see multiple tenancy data in Cloudguard. Oh, GovCloud. Okay, yes. So anybody in GovCloud, we have installed VSS into, I think, all the government regions. There might be one more to do, but of course it has to sit there hidden for I don't know how many months, 6 to 9 months, and then it gets certified, etc. So if somebody's in Gov and wants to try it out, they can ask for the service to be whitelisted. So if that's the case, feel free to email me and I'll go get that process started to get you whitelisted so you can try it out. The one issue I see that's not great for GovCloud day one is those links to the NVD. That's an external server. So as a user, you're going to have to go swivel chair into another host that has access to the internet and allow you to, jump on the NVD site looking. And external facing Slack channel. I do not know of anything like that, but I'm happy to take emails. And even if it's another security product, I'll get you in touch with the right PM. So database servers. So yes, if you run a database server on a VM or bare metal instance all on your own, VSS will scan that host for you. But if you're using, for example, a database as a service, you're using, you're using basically something that OCI is running on some giant server that's multi-tenant. We won't be scanning that. We don't need to because we have an internal team called Scan Platform, and they scan every host and every piece of equipment like load balancers and everything like that. They're scanning all the back-end equipment. And then obviously that's OCI's responsibility to keep the patches up to date and show compliance that we're doing everything correctly. The customer doesn't have to worry about that. And so that's one of the reasons why when you're doing like a software as a service, that burden becomes ours, not the customer's. Yes, okay, so another database question, right? So only database servers that you spin up on a Oracle 7 VM or something like that will scan for you. Yes, okay, so if you do currently today, if you patch a VM, you would, the fix would get picked up overnight in the next 24 hours, and then you would see that everything's fine. There are ways, like if you, let's say you patched everything, you could restart your server, which we don't, we're not saying to do that, but if you really wanted to know the results, say it's a dev box, you could restart that host. And then when it restarts, it will do a scan for you and you get an updated scan, not have to wait the full 24 hours. We're going to look at doing a way that you could poke it, have some way through the UI and say, hey, rescan this host for me, so you could get the results right away. Let's see, July 22nd, so August 5th, an anomaly detect.
Yeah, we're working on getting that fixed. Sorry, y'all. I think there was an issue in the add to calendar on there, but the event is August 5th. We're not going in the past. So please just add it to your calendar right now. We're trying to get it fixed. Thanks so much.
Okay, and I see that people weren't able to cut and paste, but typically I normally do screenshots when I'm in a Zoom conference with people and there's some good data. And if you missed out on copying those links that way, please jump into those PDFs, the PDF to get those links. And feel free to reach out to me. And I think I am done. Do we have any other polls still to do?
I think that is it, Jim.
You pulled out?
That are all. Yep, we have pulled out. Yeah, Jim, thanks so much. I know that you and Maywin and I on the call, we've been working on this for a while together. So it's great to get the gang back together and do this presentation. So we really appreciate you doing this on Cloud Customer Connect. And if you guys have any further questions, I did share a link. I know I've been sharing links the whole time. And someone did note that you guys can't save chat. But if you would like to go ahead and open up those links, save them for later. But we do have a lot of links in the chat to help with any questions that you guys have after this. You can go to the forum and post any questions and continue the discussion there. And saving the links, of course, for upcoming events. And we hope to see you guys next week. So
one more question came in, I can answer real quick. Can objects also be scanned? So we do not scan like the buckets and so on, right? There are things, so like if you've exposed a bucket to the outside world, that will get detected and sent to Cloudguard. And we do plan at some point to offer some kind of data loss prevention type product. And those kind of things would help you with that kind of information, making sure that you don't have sensitive data in certain places, databases, objects, stuff like that. All right. I'm all good. Thank you so much for attending today.
yeah, thank you all.